The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar, The Future of Play in a Gamified World. We'll get started in just a moment. We'll wait a couple more minutes to see if anyone else would like to sign in. So hold tight and we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, here we go. Welcome to those who have just joined us. This month's webinar will be looking at gamification and the future of play in our mobile tech-enabled worlds, where everything can become a game, which is impacting how we engage with brands, media, and ourselves. We're going to focus on 3 areas today, looking at how play and gaming are altering the way consumers engage across sectors and in their day-to-day life. So firstly, we're going to start with an overview of how digital gaming is evolving by taking a look at immersive content and how this will shape the consumer approach to media and gaming moving forward. Then we'll look at a few key consumer trends which are impacting play and customer engagement, things which are shaping consumer expectations across their lives as they engage with the world around them, with implications for gaming, but ideas again which can be applied across sectors. And lastly, we'll look at consumer as the story seeker. And so to begin, we live in a new immersive world that will change how consumers see their environment and behave within it. These new immersive technologies will begin having their greatest impact with gaming before moving elsewhere, and particularly impacting media. Now, there are different mediums for immersive engagement. The 2 main ways that you will have heard of by now are VR, virtual reality, and AR, augmented reality. And during the past year, VR technology has finally emerged in real, tangible ways into the consumer marketplace, with brands such as Sony and Samsung paving the way for this new completely immersive and 360-degree viewing experience. There has been a lot of talk already about VR, but we have really only just begun a journey into the possibilities of what the future of VR can do and how this will shape media, play, and gaming over the next 5, 10 years and more. The tools of immersion are being sharpened by relentless tech innovation. New services from VR to holographic interfaces collectively hint at what might lie ahead. A future where real-life experiences can be convincingly imitated and where storytelling brands can magically transport us into specially crafted spaces where the user is actively present in a new or different reality. So our first trend, Immerse Me, and there has been a lot of talk already about VR, but we really have only just begun a journey into the possibilities of what the future of VR can do. The full immersion ability of VR literally transports us, not just in the faux physical, but emotionally as well, with some experiments in VR being used to generate empathy in others. And AR, as you know, builds on our current world, thus offering digital layering and connection as we are mobile and on the move, an interaction that can be seamlessly placed in the consumer's view without any additional tech hardware. And while everyday use of both these technologies remains niche, with AR having been used popularly in Snapchat filters or the Yelp monocle feature in the past, these technologies could upend the current passive media experience. Brands are provided with a new creative outlet with which to engage consumers in product launches or exploratory or promotional videos, much the way gaming engages consumers into participation and play. Again, VR and AR continue to currently have a heavy focus on gaming, with Oculus launching a number of compatible games and promising more by the end of 2016, along with launching 30 games to be used with its Oculus Touch controller to allow for natural gestures and movements while in the game. This type of next-generation immersion holds potentially disruptive implications for many areas of life, for how we learn, design, communicate, preview products, and purchase, all areas in which the future hold potential to be done completely digitally, immersed in different spaces without needing to travel from place to place. But it is perhaps the media experience which today remains largely passive that could be most impacted by new levels of immersion and interactivity that is promised here. We expect a world to arrive in which the physical and emotional distance that separates the consumer is dramatically reduced. In 5 years' time, we might expect to see the arrival of media from the consumer's point of view, with multiple ways to watch and engage content as this technology expands beyond gaming. And consumers are largely unaware of the potential of the new VR and AR interfaces. But among consumers, there is strong interest in VR. And although only a small portion have actually used this technology, 10% as you see on screen, the appetite and curiosity is there, and it is the important factor, especially as more consumer applications for this technology becomes available. Gamers will be the first adopters, but soon many will see these devices as platforms to experience and play in new media places, communication, and with collaboration as well. Full immersion will feel like play and fun as it takes us to new places, taking part in a variety of engaging experiences as VR allows for greater interactivity. And you can see again on screen, while it's a third of the population who say they're interested, millennials are going to be most interested, of course, but still we're seeing just over 20% of baby boomers too who are showing interest in this sort of technology. And while VR allows for full immersion, AR could prove to be more applicable as it is easier to apply to everyday situations in a seamless way. And again, while the stats shown here for those using AR apps is low, this data is collected before the Pokemon craze of this year. Consumers have now experienced a tangible, fun, and interactive AR experience, which has cleared the path for more AR engagement, particularly for brands. And here are some examples of how VR is being used in clever ways, beyond only gaming, to engage and bring play, allowing consumers to interact. And so here we see, in this example, a blend of television sports with VR viewing. So founded in autumn of 2015, the San Francisco-based startup Live Like VR created a virtual reality stadium where consumers can watch sports with friends located anywhere in the world. Live Like utilizes existing 2D wide-angle camera technology that is already installed on many devices, enabling broadcasters to enter the VR market quickly without having to switch to new camera technology such as multi-camera rigs. Users can customize their own VR suite and invite friends to watch the match together. During the game, viewers are able to send instant messages, access different views of the field, and watch different highlights, as well as pull up game stats, replays, and player information. And with The Void, which opened in Utah this past summer, it is the first virtual reality theme park. Visitors to the park are each given a virtual reality headset, a pair of gloves that can track their hands in 3D space, and a vest that can give the sensation of being touched, completely immersed in this world. This combination of virtual devices allows the users the experience of exhilarating activities but without the perceived risk. The website of the experience stated, "At the Void, you will walk into new dimensions and experience worlds without limits, from fighting intergalactic wars on alien planets to casting spells in the darkest of dungeons. The Void presents the future of entertainment." And even in shopping, Liveroom is a free app which allows merchants to create a cloud-based virtual showroom, supporting VR headsets like Google Cardboard or Oculus Rift. Users download the app and can access 3D model of products they are considering buying. Consumers can explore the product, virtually trying it on in their homes, and thus minimizing any returns. And finally, no conversation about the future of VR or AR could be complete without talking about Pokemon Go. And although we just mentioned this as the most successful AR app to date, we couldn't not include it in this webinar. So for those of you who haven't played this game, you would have likely at least heard of it. It is a location-based augmented reality game. Players use their mobile device's GPS capability to locate and capture and battle virtual creatures called Pokemon, who appear on the user's screen as if they were in the same real-world location as the player. This game is interesting in a number of ways, not only because of how it promoted AR technology, but it encourages people to be active in the real world and has popularized location-based gaming as well. And local businesses too have not been shy in taking advantage of this, luring customers in, telling them that there's PokeStops that they can play and capture and be a part of. And so since launch in July of this past year, it has become a global phenomenon and one of the most used mobile apps, having been downloaded by more than 130 million people worldwide, although it has also been heavily criticized as a nuisance. But what's key here is to note that AR is immersing us in our current reality rather than a separate one. There will be a place for both of these in the future, both VR and AR, and in the future of gaming, but for brands, this is key to show that how you can exist with the consumer in very different contexts, immersing them with their current world or immersing them in a second one. And so this is the new reality that we live in of immersive experiences. And the more technology improves and expands the quality of these and ease of access, consumers will expect greater levels of immersion and media tailored to them in these spaces from brands and their environment. So our next section, we're going to look at trends that are driving engaged play. And so the consumer's relationship with media content will be forever changed by these technologies, as we've mentioned, but with an increased expectation on being in the media, engaging with it, from live sports broadcasts and video gaming to the ads that accompany this content. All of this will feel more intimate, specially choreographed for the solitary viewer. These new technologies will offer consumers an intimate experience with a personalized point of view, and advertisers can harness this to offer consumers truly credible, immersive experiences. And so with VR, the consumer's relationship with media content from live sports broadcasts to video gaming will need to become more personal, which is why we bring up the Me world, looking at the future of personalization, from mass customization to contextual relevance. And I know marketers have grown somewhat tired of hearing the words big data and personalization. Like with any other overused lingo, the power and commercial opportunity these terms hold gets lost in the noise of less than perfect execution. And so how will this change consumers? Will it lead to consumers expecting a personalized point of view in every media context and personalized messaging in these environments too? Gaming creates a world for the consumer within their existing world, changing the environment with the consumer as they move through it, connecting them with friends and tracking personal stats and giving rewards for accomplishments, all things which can be transferred to the consumer's life in real time as brands create worlds for the consumer within theirs. For instance, sensors and location-sensitive targeting and communication of today, mixed with the anticipatory services of tomorrow, can create a situation in which personalization hits its rebirth as contextualization, a world of perfect precision. And personalization as a premise is still very potent. The consumer quest for quantified relevance drives data streams to swarm, pressuring brands to abandon the cookie-cutter approach. Catering to consumers as individuals in everything from product design to marcoms is now paramount. It is meaningful, purposeful personalization, one which provides them with tangible benefits that is raising the bar and demanding brands move away from data hoarding and towards generating true insight. And so the paths to success are different. For some brands, it will be use of personal insight to help consumers maximize by extending the right material incentives. For others, it will be tailoring of services and products to offer ultimate convenience and perfectly tailored offerings. And consumer understanding of their digital presence is now more nuanced, with a distinction between anonymity and privacy favoring more tailored marcoms online. Consumers will begin to look for more meaningful advice and true individual insight. And as you can see here, an average of 20% of the population is willing to share their data to be given personal recommendations from brands, a stat that has increased slightly over the last year and something we expect to continue trending upward as consumers see the benefit they receive from sharing their data. It will remain a hesitant number while targeting is still improving and consumers are wary of over-notification and intrusion. But when consumers can clearly see that sharing information benefits them, such as sharing their data to receive discounts, interest in this jumps up to a third overall, they will be much more willing to happily share their data. However, as data sensitivities vary between the more data-sharing millennials to the more conservative boomers, personalization approaches will have to be even more personalized, again, moving towards contextualization. For instance, Looking at the stats here, being able to haggle for personalized pricing yields far more interest from individuals across the board. In gaming and media, this can allow brands to tailor price of in-game purchases based on the consumer's behavior, recurring purchases tailored to their activity, or even tailored to how and how often they play and how they decide to engage with the brand. And perhaps this means even greater flexibility with what consumers are allowed to pay with. And this can engender loyalty when engagement can be altered to each person individually. And this is a trend which speaks to a central human need, the desire to receive personal attention. Thus, it cuts across all demographics. Consumers will be willing to return, to buy, to play, to engage in order to achieve these specific discounts or to get that next level, or to be able to negotiate based on their loyalty and get those next level personal benefits. Here's a look at a few ways in which context and emotion are being applied to play. In March of this year, gaming studio Flying Mollusk began integrating the emotional sensing technology of Affectiva into one of their video games. The AI technology software is able to sense facial expressions of players in real time, making the video game more lifelike and challenging. When players show signs of emotional distress, the game increases in difficulty. Once stress levels have gone down, the game becomes easier, thus helping players learn how to manage their anxiety and stress. Personalizing content through biometric reading such as this is a new field with experiments in how to relate this emotional understanding to create connection to the consumer. This works in gaming, but also in retail contexts and educational contexts as well. What is the best way to approach the consumer based on how they're feeling in the moment? This is where this technology is taking us and what will happen next. And then we see Game Band Minecraft, which is the first Minecraft wearable that stores a game's progress and therefore allows players to carry their game everywhere they go. The wristband contains 8 gigabytes of storage and backup capacity and is customizable. After the first year, users are charged an annual fee, but the Game Band allows you to play anywhere and also customize your Game Band to preferences. Create and share your own animations and images and keep track of all of your worlds. Now, gaming and play today have begun to infiltrate into our everyday actions and movements, going beyond the game box and just using it as time to kill while in some downtime to actually using play to change our habits and impact our lives in real ways. We now have the ability to gamify life, which is what this trend Challenge Accepted looks at, the gamification of everything. Facilitated by tracking apps, wearables, and more, consumers are keen to turn the fresh information they have about themselves and their habits into something meaningful. New structures of motivation and reward are appearing across the consumer landscape, which exploit this data, aiding consumers in their attempts to achieve their goals. Employing a carrot and stick mechanism, gamified systems attempt to create genuine behavioral change. Rewards such as points or simply the opportunity to share one's personal success online for all to see or even feel jealous of are counterbalanced by the threat of punishment or failure, inspiring users to play to win, even if it is just against themselves. The gamification of success can assist with all manner of ambitions, skill acquisition, health transformations, money saving, productivity. Consumers will take advantage of tools which help them hack their way to victory. Those which break aspirations down into bite-sized, manageable tasks make these goals even more achievable and allow users to see instant progress. Behavior is constantly tracked, ensuring accountability. Notifications, recommendations, and subtle nudges in the right direction motivate consumers on their journey to accomplishment. Key, too, is the fun factor, as dull tasks are transformed into opportunities to triumph. And as consumers seek to add play to every area of their lives, this opens up brand opportunities for points and reward systems, or badges for achievement of various levels of engagement. Be it buying a product X number of times or using a service, adding levels of accomplishment can fuel the consumer's internal competitor to continue to reach greater levels of achievement. And with the rise of mobile, the use of gaming apps too is on the rise. Here you see a forecast of the use of gaming apps over the next few years. Games are a mix of fun with the added bonus of convenience while on the go. And while most of the use of gaming apps will be for pure fun and distraction, Challenge Accepted is at its best when it can be tracked in the moment, on the go, and utilizing spare moments to get to that next step or next level. And so our mobile devices are the perfect place to put these games for our betterment. Consumers want easier, more efficient ways to better themselves, and brands can position themselves as life-hacking partners, employing existing expertise to help consumers achieve their goals. With a challenge-accepted mindset, there exists opportunities for brands to integrate fun challenges into everyday consumer actions. Friendly competition, even if it isn't necessarily for a particular betterment, by offering rewards for participation. Games mechanics will spread outwards from financial services and the health sector to feed into ever more wide-ranging sectors, becoming an established facet of some industries. And so it is in these micro moments, these in-between moments, that this engagement can occur when consumers are most willing to participate. And narrowing in on this trend a bit, we can see specific consumer interest in being prompted to challenges from outside sources. Unsurprisingly, engagement and interest is highest among millennials, but is still a strong 20% among boomers. And the example you see here is from Zwift, and it was launched as a gamified cycling platform, allowing consumers to race, train, and challenge friends to races and sprints using their own bike from the comfort of their own home or gym. And again, you will see examples of this trend, challenge accepted, and people playing for their betterment, in plenty of sectors, but this is a trend which mostly exists within the health and well-being, finance, and education sectors, with apps such as Capital and Duolingo and fitness trackers using gamification-style features. These challenge individuals to better their performance and attain new skills, create better habits for all parts of their lives. And the example on screen is from the education sector. So Liveroom is a virtual reality game which aims to improve cognitive skills. It uses VR technology, allowing users to interact with environments rather than simple smartphone or desktop screens, thus challenging the brain in a different and more efficient way. The game is able to adapt, changing its parameters depending on their user's performance, courtesy of data intelligence. By constantly changing the difficulty, the game will better challenge the brain. And what is likely to happen across sectors is that customer loyalty platforms will arise as branded games. Points perhaps become transferable as virtual currency because everybody likes to win. And in our final section, we'll look at how we tell the story. And so when we think of all these together, immersive content, personalized and contextual engagement, and the gamification of our lives, what we see is the consumer seeking and creating story. They want to be part of a story. They also want to draw people and brands into their stories. And so the desire to collect stories underpins so many of our consumption choices. New experiences are sought in order to build memories, identities, stores of social capital. And there are advancements now in how we tell stories too. From visual to video to virtual reality, the means we have for conveying narrative are becoming ever more immersive. And so we seek more vibrant experiences to record and retell in these new mediums. Meanwhile, the business of storytelling is thriving, with seemingly endless appetite for sequels, prequels, and endlessly serialized content, all enabled by increasingly constant, untethered access to content as we travel, wait in line, or even before we go to sleep. In this world, brands too are invited to craft stories in order to impress and attract the intention of the story-seeking consumer. And those who can also provide experiences that will help us create our own status-boosting stories will naturally win. Now, two shifts are pushing the value of stories ever higher. First, rising access to those items once seen as luxuries has encouraged many to place a greater focus on the pursuit of experiences, whether in addition to or in place of more material-based forms of consumption. Using these immersive technologies, play, and gaming mechanics, such as VR as a medium, this attempts to place people inside of stories rather than just observing them. And brands can provide opportunities for more exploration, experience, and enrichment. Brands and media providers who can develop rich backstories for consumers to explore and uncover, or provide consumers with stories that they want to share across their networks will naturally appeal. And secondly, social media has become a living journal and portfolio of our daily experiences. Recording and sharing what we do has turned the world into a community of storytellers. This naturally increases the demand for experiences to fuel our online story platforms. Real-time sharing and streaming boosts the desire for more experiences to share. And the means to tell our own stories will only become more numerous and seamless. For media in particular, a story-rich world places creative pressure on the traditional sector of storytelling. From journalism to movies, the sector is grappling with new mediums to tell stories in more vibrant ways. As social platforms have emerged, consumers have become more accustomed to viewing and creating short-form stories in near constant stream. Opportunities for accessing media channels are also multiplying, spawning behaviors such as binging and on-the-go viewing. And so here are a few examples of story being used and experimented with for engagement. Story Studio, shown here, was launched with a mission to determine how stories could be told with VR. A few months after Facebook acquired Oculus, the project brings developers and artists together to explore the new medium and discover how they can use animation software and video game tools to make cinematic films. As part of the process, creating Henry, a short animated released at Sundance Festival in 2015, developers hacked Unreal Engine, the game-making software, in order to be able to create more cinematic sequences. And all the code is open source, as the group hopes to inspire others to explore VR as a storytelling medium as well. And recently, the BBC announced research into a data-driven personalized viewing via a film entitled Visual Perceptive Media. Users who downloaded a dedicated app indicated their media preferences, then answered questions about their personality and demographics, and then they viewed a personalized data-based film narrative. The film itself was comprised of a number of individual objects and shots that were reassembled according to the viewer's indicated preferences. Two different viewers would not see separate versions of the film, but uniquely plotted narratives. Essentially, some scenes were reordered or omitted, color levels might differ, and a score would meet the viewer's music preferences. And so, in summary, how does this burgeoning consumer desire for immersive personal content in a world where we can make everything a game and create our own stories shape consumption today? Well, again, firstly, immersion. Consumers want to be in the story. Secondly, personal and contextual. Stories must be relevant to their what, where, and how. And lastly, life is a game. Consumers want you to play into their love of play. Thank you. Right now, we'll take some questions. So if anyone has any questions, you can type it into the question box, and I will answer it for you now. I just got a question about if gamification can be expanded across all sectors. We do believe, yes, it can. So it doesn't necessarily, again, need to be for a particular betterment or to create a new habit. It's just the idea of play and integrating play mechanics in your engagement, again, whether that be with loyalty schemes or achieving certain badges. This really is not sector specific. I have a question to tell people more about the touch option. In terms of touch, I imagine you mean the Oculus Rift touch controller. If that is the case, this is something that's been newly released, and they are creating games to go with it. So that way, when you are in using virtual reality, you are actually active and able to use your body movements to participate in that world. I've been asked a question about what is our point of view on the New York Times experiment on VR to create greater empathy. This has actually been done a number of times in various situations. That is one key thing that that people are using VR for in order to give people a new perspective, a perspective that they wouldn't otherwise be able to have. Because you're so immersed when you put a VR headset on, you are able to see the world through another person's view. You're able to see how they experience the world. And by doing that, by getting the experience of another, like literally through their eyes, you are able to expand empathy. This has also been done in the health sector, with people being able to see the world through people with disabilities. And so again, expanding empathy and understanding of what it is like to be in another's shoes. And I imagine that, again, people will experiment with more of this in the future. And as well with the New York Times experiment, continuing on that, interesting to see how that actually adds to their storytelling as journalists. So not only are you writing an article, you're actually then able to show people what it looks like, what these journalists themselves are seeing, what the people on the ground are experiencing, particularly in war zones where it can seem very abstract and very distant. For other questions that have come up, we will get back to you separately. One more thing to mention is we have just launched a brand new platform, and so if you would like to have yourself a free trial on that platform, simply go to foresightfactory.co and you can register for a trial and get yourself immersed in all of our content as well, and you'll be able to see this webinar will be put as well up on YouTube in a short time, so that'll be available if you want to go back and rewatch that. So thank you again, everyone, for attending. Again, we'll follow up with any questions we didn't get to today, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.